Merry Christmas, everybody. I told you guys a while ago that I would be bringing back the custom track tutorials. So finally, here we are, Melting Magma Melee being the first track as you guys voted. This is a very difficult custom track, I can agree, and I hope to give you guys a better understanding both for online and time trials in this run. So obviously, like all my other tutorials, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to show you guys a lap of the track. Once I'm done with that, we'll break it down from there. Okay, so the first thing you probably notice is that I do a wheelie off of this first platform instead of a trick. Now the reason you do that is obviously because of your start boost. When you do a trick, you get a lot more vertical height, and you definitely don't want that. You want to be going forward as much as possible and as fast as possible. When you're tricking, you're losing a lot of speed instead of gaining. So instead of that, you wheelie off the first ramp, which pushes you onto the edge of the second platform, and then you do a trick off the second platform. The next strat involves using the collision of the track to our advantage, which you can see in this strat here. What you saw there was utilizing the edge of the road. So what we want to do, we want to get a hop trick off part of the road, and then land close enough to the edge, but not too close where you actually get a good amount of your speed boost, and then trick off again and continue on the track as you normally do. The next thing I feel I should clarify, please take the right route. The left route is like impossibly narrow. Along with that, there's bats in there, so you're likely going to end up hitting a wall either way. The right route is much wider and has a huge margin for error. So if you get hit by a bat, it's not going to be the end of the world for you. But yeah, like I said, take the right route. Now the next strat on this track involves the trickable edge once again. But this is going to be way different than compared to the other one because there are two different strats for TTs and Wi-Fi. For online, you're obviously going to want to get two tricks still. It's the safest way and you get a wheelie in between and you still go faster. But TTs are a different thing altogether. What TTs have been doing for a while is getting three tricks. Now, while this is faster, I don't really recommend this for online. However, it's definitely possible to get it consistently with practice. After all, the main difference between these two strats is the timing of the first hop. As you can see here, the timing of the online strat is very much later. Well, not really very much, but you get the idea. Whereas for the TT strat, you're going to be starting a little bit further back, around here. Oh, and obviously it's going to be a lot harder with Daisy. As you can see here, I'm barely landing on the very edge at the end of the triple trick and just barely making it onto the other platform. That's one risk that you run with doing the triple trick online. There is a slight chance that if you don't trick early enough, you're going to land on one of these edges and maybe be shot down to your death. And, well, in case you don't already know, falling off loses a lot of time compared to driving normally. Meanwhile, double trick is perfectly safe. You simply land on the perfectly flat part of the road, get a wheelie, and then trick again. Absolutely no risk to it whatsoever. Well, of course, unless there's a shock or a banana or a fib, you get the idea. Now, immediately after this strat, there's going to be one more double trick. This timing is way different than the first two because you actually get a lot of time to do your wheelie before the second trick. The timing for the first trick doesn't necessarily matter, but make sure you have some time at least to wheelie, since doing that after a trick boost maxes out your speed. And simply do the second trick and land right before the boost panels. Remember, you gotta steer left a little bit if you're too far to the right to make sure you stay on the track. So, might want to watch out for that. For this uphill section, what I like to do is do one corrective drift to correct my alignment. After this, I start my drift between the 4th and 5th boost panel. This way I keep a complete grip on the track and hit all the boost panels on the way down. Of course, you can start your mini turbo just after the 5th boost panel or right on it, but you do risk bouncing over the next boost panels, which can lose you some time and could result in you getting bumped off, which of course you wouldn't want. Now, once you start your mini turbo, you want to hold it all the way down to make sure you have absolute control of your drift and where your bike is going. And once you get to the bottom of the hill, you can release your mini turbo right after the boost from the last boost panel ends. Now, for this uphill section with the ramps, I wouldn't worry too much about it, but I will touch bases upon some things. First thing is, you want to try to hop onto most of these ramps to get a lower trick. Of course, it won't always work, but practicing the timing of the hop is something to look into, as that changes the height you get off the ramp, either for better or for worse. Secondly, these fire bars aren't too much of a problem if you keep your line after making it past the first one. As you can see here, what I tend to do, I keep a straight line to the right to avoid the first one, and I can continue keeping that line all the way until the end of the fire bar section. Now for the uphill afterward, you want to try to keep a straight line as much as you can, and go for boost panels that are in your line, of course. Don't start a drift when you're going over the top. That is just going to launch you to the other side of the track and most likely off the track as well. You just want to keep wheeling and start a wheelie once you reach the top of the crest to maintain a wheelie all the way down this hill. These following two turns are about watching how the road works. You can adjust your drift accordingly to make sure that you can charge a mini turbo between this first turn and the second one. The second one's a lot easier to do since it doesn't have very much inclination to it, and then you can simply charge a mini turbo on that and wheelie into the cave. But however, just before entering the cave, you want to hop onto this ice so that you're guaranteed a trick almost every time. And just after that, what most people would think to do is get tricks off of both the lava pillars, but that's not the case here. What you want to do, you want to get a trick off just the first one, and then charge a mini turbo to do the mushroom skip strat. Which you do by simply wheeling on the side of this ramp while avoiding the fire pillar to go over the lava and land on the other side. One thing I should note here is that whenever these fire pillars are up, you're obviously going to want to try to get tricks off of both of them. But when they're not both up, you can get some air off of the first one and then charge a mini turbo for the upcoming turn. Now for this section right here, don't try to get too risky and playful, otherwise you're going to end up doing something dumb like this. Instead, what you're going to want to do is try to either carefully time your hops if you're doing wheelies in between boost panels so that all your wheelies actually come out, or simply don't wheelie and tap left and right accordingly to make sure that you stay on the track and get an item set after all the boost panels. I personally prefer not wheeling on mine just because I have way more control after the boost panels and I can quickly react to what item boxes are available and get one in case I need it. For this part immediately after these boost panels, the top route is basically useless. What you're going to want to do is trick onto this rock here and then trick off the rock. One thing I've seen people do, including myself, is sometimes they drift too tight on this rock and they'll miss the landing completely and fall off. This isn't really good considering there's a big boost loop up ahead and you'll lose quite a considerable amount of time if you fall off here. And speaking of the boost loop, one thing that you need to make sure of is that you adjust your angle when you're on the loop so that you're parallel with it for the exit. If you don't adjust yourself and enter at the angle that I did, you're likely going to end up crashing into the left side wall. Of course, this isn't too bad since you can simply recover your speed by hopping to the right. But of course, that's not the worst thing that can happen. That would have to be if you decide to go straight and then wheelie at the bottom. Because sometimes your wheelie is going to lock and you could get some random air, which would launch you into the wall on the other side and bring you to a full stop. The reason this is the worst thing that can happen is because this is after all the boost panels, so you'll have to charge a standstill mini turbo, and this gives a lot of players the opportunity to pass you at the bottom of the loop. So the best way to do the loop is that you're going to want to start a drift at the very bottom of the loop, but not too sharp, otherwise you're going to be drifting off the track. Make sure you have just enough control of your drift so that you stay on the track and make the turn very successfully to get a good alignment for the last ramp. Once you're done with the loop, you're going to want to trick off the ramp if you're on lap 1, of course. If you're on lap 1, you trick off this ramp, you land from the platform, and wheelie into the next lap. Just because you're going on to the next lap does not mean you're going to be tricking off this first platform. You're still going to wheelie off of it. At the end of lap 2 though, for this ramp, you're going to want to hop onto it so that you get lower air and that you cancel your wheelie. You're going to keep your speed as soon as you land. So wheelie as soon as you land and cross the finish line. This is the fastest way to do it because you get the lowest amount of air and you're going to keep a really good amount of speed. Alright, now let's get to some shortcuts that are going to help you a lot in time trials. The first shortcut I see players struggling on when trying to beat Russo X's Staff Ghost is this one that goes through the snow and skips the U-turn. For me, what I believe is the most important part of this shortcut is the setup leading into it. As you can see, what I tend to do is start a little bit to the left. I start a mini turbo just after the first boost panel, that way I'm sticking to the ground and have less time for my hop. Then I charge a mini turbo and try to go off of the turn at about the third boost panel. From there, what you want to do is you want to tilt back so that your tail is landing in the cut first. Also so that you get more air before you use your shroom. Then when you land in the snow, use your shroom as soon as possible to make sure you don't get stuck in the cut. And at the very end of your shroom, this is the part that requires some practice. You're going to want to do a spin drift to get out of the snow and land on the edge where you get a trick and then wheelie into the jump section. Now the next shortcut on this level comes just after the jump section when you're going down the hill. Two things about this shortcut. One, the expert Staff Ghost actually doesn't use it. And two, it's a little bit more precise. Let me explain why this works. As you're going downhill, there's a brief part where you're going up and then back down again. This is the area where the shortcut is happening. As you can see here, I placed a line where the inclination begins as in this short little uphill. This is the area you're going to want to launch off of, and you're going to try to land in this area over here. What you want to do is when you get to the top of the hill, try to be towards the middle or a little bit to the right of that at the very top. Then you want to start your drift around here, use your shroom, launch off of this inclination, tilt back as needed, and land across in the other section. Then simply get your mini turbo and wheelie into the cave. Finally, you have the loop skip, which looks something like this. As you can see here, what I do, I start a drift at the bottom of this little hill to make sure I can go as wide as possible. I cancel that drift by letting go of my accelerator. I then start a drift to the left. Again, let go of the drift by letting go of A. Then use my handling and turn to the left so that I'm almost perpendicular to the loop. Now the reason I stick to the loop so well is because I do what's called a spin drift. When you're getting really close to the loop, start your drift to the right, but yank your joystick to the left when you're in the air. That way, you'll move Funky's elbows to the left and he'll stick to the loop, which will cause him to gain a lot more time than simply falling to the bottom of the loop and then hitting the boost there. And with that, we have come to the end of this tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I haven't done one of these in a really long time, and I really wanted to bring these back. It is my first time, so please leave some comments and let me know what you feel like I can improve for the next one. And make sure to vote for the next track in the community section of the channel. A poll will be there when this video is uploaded. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.